A group of teens were used to attending school, living separately and in harmony with social media and their friends, when their lives weren't as heavily affected by the world around. But all that changed when quarantine started. This is Teenish, a podcast to inform you on what's going on in the world and how it affects Savannah youth, a podcast for youth, by youth.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gary.
Hey, it's Kennedy again.
Hey, it's me, Marcus, and today we're going to be talking about the pandemic of racism.
What is police brutality and how is it affecting the country?
So, police brutality, in a sense, is the excessive abuse of force by police officers, in which case that they are continuously harming Black men specifically, but other people in color also. And it is affecting very much just the world around us, especially in America, because it really jump-started the Black Lives Matter movement again. And because of all this, police brutality stuff, it is really called into the question whether we should defund the police completely or reform what we already have. In my opinion of it is reforming it. We should just defund the police altogether.
And I 100% agree with Kennedy. I don't think reforming the police would really get the job done the way we want it. I think it would kind of just partially remove some of the people, but it's like the whole entire justice system is corrupt. And until we get rid of it completely, I don't think we're going to really see the change that we want. So.
I also agree with that statement, since if you it's not like a change that will benefit everybody, and there will still be issues if you just try to reform the police. So I think defunding them would be a better option and putting it into other things that community might need, like better materials in schools.
When people usually say defund the police, most people usually think that the money that the police are getting is going back into first responders. And I'm not saying that that's not everything. I mean, that's not what it's about, but that's not all. It's about when I think of defund the police and what I believe everyone should believe defund the police encompasses is putting money back into the community, like Sarah said, so that the core problems that cause people to commit crimes is eliminated. For example, providing housing, having equal opportunities to food, i.e. eliminating food deserts. Because I know personally there's about 2 or 3 in various areas of Savannah specifically, and really building into establishing transformative justice instead of I forgot what it's called, like a salient justice we have right now.
Lately, people have been taken to the streets. How do you draw the line between protesting and rioting?
I think the big difference between the protesting and the rioting is who it is that's doing it. Because you have certain people that go out to purposely make the Black Lives Matter movement look bad, or go out to take advantage of what's going on so they can steal stuff or loot or whatever it is. But I also think that what's going on is a form of self-expression, because I think it's crazy that I keep hearing people say that violence isn't the answer. And I know that it isn't always the answer, but you can't expect people to peacefully protest for human rights when they have been oppressed and discriminated against for centuries. Some people are angry and they deserve to be angry. They have every right to be angry. They also have every right to express that how they choose.
I completely agree with everything you said, since this oppression has been going on for a very, very long time. So it comes to a point where that peace isn't going to work out and violence just starts happening, since the government has been ignoring them for so long. So it's completely understandable why the riots are happening. It, looting may not be the answer. Looting may not be, the right thing to do to make a change, but people will start paying attention to everyone that's looting and rioting more than peaceful protests.
And I think that goes back into the media coverage about how protests have been continuing to go on for days and days on end in different cities, different states. But media coverage hasn't been like it was in the beginning when there was more riots and there was more damaging of people's communities and stuff like that. You don't see much of what's still happening. And I think it just goes to show how people really are really just trying to paint the Black Lives Matter movement in such a negative way, when all it is just people fighting for their rights and fighting for their lives at the end of the day.
I'm honestly kind of at a standstill because I agree with what you said, Sarah and Marcus, where Black people have a right to be angry. So I want to understand and agree why they are rioting. I also see the side on why peaceful protests are necessary, even though regardless they're both bringing media and attention to the Black Lives Matter movement. But in terms of monuments and defacing monuments and really pushing to have them removed, then on the other flip side, having like white voice actresses step down from playing people of color roles and stuff like that, while I really appreciate it, and I'm glad that they're making a stand now, even if it's 20-ish years late in terms of The Simpsons. I just feel like that's just a form of performative justice, and it's trying to appease the Black community instead of actually giving us justice and what we want, which is justice for people like Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, who is real local. Because I mean, when that run with Arbery thing was over, I don't think anything happened to the people who killed him. And so I'm kind of at standstill because it's like, is that a form of rioting that I'm not tolerating as opposed to the rioting that I'm used to seeing online?
And you're right, because a lot of things that are happening are just deflecting of what people are really just asking for: equality and for justice, and for Breonna Taylor, for every single Black person's lives that have been lost to police, to get justice. And people tearing down monuments is, I feel like, a self-expression thing. I agree with you about how it is just taking everybody's attention off what really matters at the end of the day.
Why is the issue currently Black Lives Matter? And is All Lives Matter an appropriate response?
Okay, so the issue with that is Black Lives Matter doesn't mean that all lives don't matter. So right now, we're trying to get justice for Black people, and people are responding with, well, all lives matter. Well, if all lives matter, all lives do matter, don't get me wrong, but Black lives matter at this moment because Black people are being killed and arrested for things that they shouldn't be. They are being accused. We have Black people dying on the street every single day, and they don't understand that.
There was this thing that is a great analogy to what's happening between All Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter. It's between it was a fire right here. As you can see, it says, I think that all lives matter. We should care exactly equally all times about everything. All houses matter. And basically the analogy was that one house was on fire, but somebody was, watering their other houses because all houses matter. And they wasn't bringing focus on a house that was on fire, and instead was focusing on all the other houses, which is kind of thing with the All Lives Matter thing, where Black people are being oppressed today, and all lives do matter, but that's not the main focus.
People who say all lives matter, or, oh, I don't see color, you are a part of the problem. Because if you don't see color, you don't see the patterns of what's going on in today. If you say that all lives matter, like, okay, yeah, we know all lives matter, like, we get it. But the thing is that, like, you aren't being arrested, you aren't being killed, you aren't being held down in the streets. Can't, like, there's just so much going on, and I feel like all lives matter or I don't see color is just another diversion of people trying to sweep what's going on under the rug. And a lot of it is from people. Don't get me wrong, I know there's people in higher up positions that are working every day to try to help and heal the world with what's going on, but there's also plenty more politicians and the people in the 1% that aren't doing anything, that have so much money to help, that have all these resources to give to people, and yet they're just sitting on their money, and because they feel like they're untouchable, it doesn't concern them. Because it's not their family and their children, it doesn't concern them, which is the big problem. You can't say that all lives matter and then turn your cheek to what's going on.
I just truly believe that people don't have a problem with the lives matter part of the term. They just have a problem with the Black part, because there was a period of time where I saw Black be substituted with Latin lives matter, or LGBTQ lives matter, or Blue lives matter, which is what everyone sees now. And when I'm seeing that, I feel like people are not realizing that Black people can be police officers, Black people can be Latino, and Black people can be LGBTQ. So at its core, they are erasing that sector of people who are Black, as if saying, yeah, no, you only have to identify as one thing. You only have to identify from your sexuality or your ethnicity, and not your race, not knowing that it's all one and the same. You all coexist. So when I hear people responding with all lives matter to Black Lives Matter, it's just telling me that you have a problem with the word Black.
People usually try to justify by saying, "Oh man, this person did this and that. So why you guys saying, oh man, justice for him? He robbed somebody." And it's not the point. I mean, okay, he robbed somebody, but it's about what's happening now, that he died for no reason at all, and for something so little that you are willing to say, "Oh man, why are you guys saying justice for him? He did all this bad stuff," and that's kind of not the right thing to do as a innocent, like as a human being that died innocently. It doesn't matter what he did in the past, it's what's happening right now.
Cops aren't supposed to kill guilty people either, no matter what they've done. No, like, no excuse for anything at all, ever.
Hi, welcome back. My name is Kennedy White, and we are joined today with former Mayor Dr. Otis Johnson. Hello, Mr. Johnson.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine.
Wonderful.
Yourself?
Wonderful.
Wonderful. We just got quite a few questions to ask you because, as everyone in Savannah should know, you have quite the history tying you back to Savannah and how it relates back to race, being an African American male. What changes have you seen in regards to race relations here in Savannah during your lifetime? Just a quick background on that.
Well, I was born in 1942, 78 years ago, and we were in the era, Jim Crow era, where everything was segregated. So my full 12 years of public schooling was done in segregated schools. I never had the opportunity to attend a school during those 12 years with anybody from the white community. In addition to that, we got secondhand books. The books that we received to study from were used books that had been in the white schools, and then they gave them to us. And then I came to manhood during the civil rights movement. I'd spent, after high school, 2 years in the Navy. I came back out of the Navy and started at Savannah State to be the first Black to attend Armstrong, which is now Georgia Southern. And then I took part in the marches that were occurring during the 60s. I changed over the years. I saw the schools desegregated with a struggle. It wasn't easy to desegregate the public schools here. I saw all of the public accommodations desegregated. I saw for the first time since Reconstruction, Blacks were elected to public office. I've seen a lot.
That's so great. like while you were talking, I was like, oh my goodness, you remind me of my grandmother because she helped desegregate Windsor Forest. You mentioned that you were the first Black person to attend Armstrong. What
Yes.
were some of the challenges you faced and the youth after you faced in doing that process?
The good thing about attending Armstrong at that time was that it was a commuter college. There were no dormitories. This is before they moved out on the south side. This is when they
Oh,
were on Gadsden and Bull Street,
oh,
Armstrong Mansion. So so we after classes, I was able to go home, and so I didn't have the pressure on me that I experienced when I went to Athens to attend the University of Georgia. Armstrong at the time was a 2-year college, so I got my associate degree at Armstrong, and then I went on to finish my undergraduate degree at the University of Georgia. Georgia was a very different animal because I had to deal, first of all, with the racial climate. And then I came a couple of years after Charlene Hunter and Hamilton Holmes graduated,
mm-hmm.
and the racial tensions were still extremely high on that campus. So it was a very different atmosphere of being able to come home after class and being away from home and having to deal with the stress of being there at the University of Georgia. But I made it through. But we have to be prepared, and that's why very important messages is get your education, go as far and as wide as you can, because you will have to compete, and you can't use the race card when you aren't prepared. When you are prepared and you're discriminated against, you've got grounds then to protest. But if you aren't qualified and you use the race card, so be prepared, know that you're going to have to struggle and get ready and get into it.
Yes. Um, Mr. Johnson, you just mentioned that's also a really great piece of advice, but do you have any other advice for youth who want to continue their fight for racial justice, racial equality, and some activism, especially
Yeah.
with what's going on right now?
Yes. Know the history of the struggle. And when you know that history, you know how strong your people are. You know that we have never taken it and we're not going to take it now. And you have to continue the struggle. And that's why I close the book, this phrase, a luta continue. The struggle continues. So I'm counting on you and your peer groups and your generation to keep the struggle going, because we have to pass the baton on. This is a very long marathon, and it's not a sprint. And I know you've heard that before. And so my generation has passed it on to the people, and now your parents are passing it on to you, and you will have to pass it on to your children.
Mm-hmm.
And the first step in that is to learn the history of the struggle and contributions, even against the odds. And the only thing that we have ever asked of this country was to treat us equally, especially now that we're talking about the police. Have the police treat us like they do non-blacks. Treat us the same way. That's all we ever ask. Act like they matter.
I love when you talk because I'm just sitting here and I'm like, I have nothing else to say because I just agreed completely. um, I hate for this to close, but this is my last question for you.
Yeah.
Um, now that you are no longer mayor, are there
Mm-hmm.
certain things you wish the youth could have been educated on to eliminate the current racial struggles going on? And like to kind of clarify, you see, especially
Yeah.
on my social media in Savannah, you see a bunch of non-black and I say non-Black to include people of color that aren't Black,
Hmm.
not truly understanding the
Yeah,
sentiments that the Black Lives Matters movement is trying to portray. Like,
yeah, yeah. That's why we have to insist that the schools teach accurate history,
hmm,
and that means including the contributions of everybody.
all right. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I really enjoyed.
Young people must learn that story.
I know, and I'm so glad that you're here to tell it to them.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you for coming.
From all of this, what can we do now and what can we do to heal?
One thing that we could do is still go out there and protest and, spread the word, spread information about it. But protesting isn't just, going up to City Hall, speaking what you have to say. You can also protest from home, spread information on your Instagram account, Twitter, tell everybody facts, history, all of that about what's happening. And since, the media doesn't want to talk about really Black Lives Matter anymore and the protests, it's time that we take a stand and do it ourselves. And hopefully that we will be heard. I mean, that our voices will be heard one day in the future. And hopefully it'll be soon.
I don't know if I'm pretty sure we've mentioned it before, just a little bit or touched on it. Re-education, a big, huge. It should be one of the main focuses of kids' school, public school, whatever it may be, because I know a lot of our history, a lot of what we are taught is very, very washed down, whitewashed. Um, so a lot of the things that we learn growing up is different from what other people know. Until we really dig deep into why we're taught certain things or why we're made to believe certain things and change that and re-educate children and make sure that future generations grow up better than we were able to and learn the facts of what is right. I don't see any changes, or I don't feel like their changes won't be as impactful as they should be.
The biggest way I see us as a community healing from this is really attending maybe something like a grief circle and talking things out with a therapist because believe it or not, generational trauma is a real thing and it can be very taxing on anyone's mental, emotional, or physical state. So um, if therapy isn't an option for you, because I know it is a financial burden on most people, writing, and for me specifically, it's writing poetry, could really help de-stress the mind. And as much as I hate to say it, the last one, I feel like could help people's heal and mental state is just taking a break from social media altogether. And I know that for the youth, social media is our source of news and entertainment, but it is also a source of our own trauma. I know, especially with everything going on, I've seen someone die at least 10 times on various people's stories just from Instagram. That's not mentioning me going on Twitter. And that can be desensitizing and taxing and very emotional on someone just to constantly see that and it be brought up day after day after day. So just taking a complete break and self quarantine within quarantine could help people heal.
So whatever it means, listening to music, writing, like Kennedy said, art, self-expression. We understand that during these difficult times, we will be talking about some very hard topics that can be very taxing on our emotional state. So we want to take a second to share our moments of joy that help us get through it.
So my moment of joy is showcasing me and my friends at Forsyth, and we went to play Dungeons and Dragons together.
Um, my moment of joy this week was when I was eating Wendy's and I so happened to found a heart-shaped chicken nugget and it made me really happy for a while, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, that was my moment of joy. I thought it was really cute.
Okay, so it may be a blink image, but I do have my moment of joy is the fireworks that happened over the 4th of July weekend, and it was just really cool just seeing them, all in the sky. big sounds, and just like fireworks.
So we there was a this white little boy. He was about 13. He told me and a couple of my friends to go pick his car and called us the N word, everything. So we put him in a group chat with like 13 other people, and we told him to apologize and just say sorry or whatever, and then we made him delete his Instagram.
Thanks for listening. This is a podcast for you, by you.
We are small now, but we could always get bigger.
If you're interested in joining, giving us a moment of joy, or have a topic you want to discuss, please contact us at the email below.
Tune in next time where we talk about the juvenile justice system.
Tune in next time where we talk about the juvenile justice system.
You stole Gary's line, Sarah.
I'm so sorry, I didn't see that.